First of all, I'd like to say thank you. Thank you very much for coming and spending your free period with us, because we could spend it on so many different things. We all know that free period is anything but free. So as Steve Port sent an article around this morning, our international students are on the increase. We certainly know that, but to see it in print is particularly needs attention to be taken to. So one of the things that the panelists all have in common is that they've spent time either teaching or learning, or teaching and learning, in both classrooms internationally as well as American classrooms. So we spoke with all of these folks about what they could bring to the panel and what strategies they could share, what cultural kinds of differences they could share with you from their experiences in both international classrooms as well as the American classrooms. So I'll have the panelists introduce themselves.
Hi, my name is Julie Yu. I teach Chinese language and culture classes here, and this is my second year. It's great to be here.
Okay.
Yeah, that's it.
Hi everyone, my name is Warren Dai, and you can call me Brenda as my English name. I am an exchange student here. I came from Nanjing, China Pharmaceutical University. This is my first semester here. I have enjoyed a good time here. Thank you.
I'm Jack Haverty, Associate Professor in the Accounting Department. I've taught at Beijing University in the MBA program that was run by the consortium of the Jesuit business schools for a while. I've taught a few executive education programs, Nanjing and Suzhou, and I've taught probably about six summers, 6 visits at what's now called, strangely enough, the University of St. Joseph in Macau. And they claim they have the longer rights to the name than we do. I didn't fight that.
Hi, I'm Ethan Thomas. I'm a senior here. I studied abroad last year in the fall at the University of International Business and Economics in Beijing, and I am a History and Asian Studies major.
Hi, I'm Wei Yicai, but known as Dawn. I'm from Hangzhou, China. It's a very beautiful city. And I'm a freshman communication studies major with music industry minor.
Hi, my name is Jing Wen. I'm an accounting faculty at St. Joe's. I did my undergrad in China many years ago. I came to the States in 1997 to go to graduate school and joined St. Joe's faculty in 2007. So I teach undergrad and MBA level accounting courses.
Hi, I'm John Neva. I'm originally from Brazil. Taught at the graduate and undergraduate level in Brazil. Joined St. Joe's in 2007. I'm in the Department of Management, assistant professor. I focus essentially on international business and strategy, and I've also been part of the China summer program twice, and I've had, I almost want to say many, but certainly several foreign and Chinese students every semester in my classes.
Thank you. So we'll get started. Each panelist will take about 5 minutes to give us their perspective on things, and then we'll open it up for questions at the end. We should still have 10 or 15 minutes at the end for your questions. It's being taped because there were faculty members who were unable to be here today and really wanted to be a part of this, so we'll be able to archive this, and then other people can participate. Julie? Thank you.
So if I go past 5 minutes, just stop.
Okay. Okay.
So as a native Chinese, I came here 6 years ago for graduate study. So I was soon discovered the academic demands and the culture differences after I got here. So first of all, my observations of lectures in US, it focused on the informal and fast-paced with the lecturer working from PowerPoint slides, and rarely was the textbook referred to in the lecture. So that's different from what I experienced, like teacher adheres to the prescribed textbook, and analyzing sentence by sentence. And also during lecturing, faculty or professors frequently asking students direct questions and ask students to take part in discussions and group exercises in the lecture. So for me, it was unusual but stressful, for I was not used to interacting directly with the lecturer and working collaboratively in the classroom. So another observation that I soon discovered is the assessment that used in the classroom differently in both U.S. and China. Here we use more different forms than what we use in China, including classroom, discussions, group projects, presentation, individual paper, tutorials, quizzes, exams, of course. But in China, the forms are much simpler. So students often required to take quizzes, midterm exams, final exams. So I faced this variety of new and challenging assessment. For example, group-based presentation. So because lack of the experience of doing the group assignment work and the required skills necessary for the group presentation, I often find it's very frustrating for me. In the study by Juan and Jones in 2011, they did a study to interview the students who is the first year, the Chinese students who is the first year studying in the U.S., but in the business management classroom. So here are the quotes, some quotes of the Chinese students' concerns. So they're concerned about different parts: lecture, in-class discussion, group presentations. So one student said, "My listening skills are not adequate to understand the lecture. Sometimes I'm unable to concentrate on the content. As a result, I don't know what he said." Another student comments say about the in-class discussion, "I'm not used to discuss with my group members. I usually listen to the discussion. When they talk to me, they speak slowly and try to let me understand what they discussed." And some students also comment they are afraid of the presentation and reluctant to present themselves. Also, there are some students comment on the assessment, saying in China, I only had quizzes, mid-examinations, final examinations. So my presentation competence was never judged. I studied by myself without participating in groups. I think the assessment is very crucial. So the challenges that I think the Chinese students facing here in academic demands are, first of all, the different teaching models. So, for example, the different style of lecturing, the requirement for participating in the tutorials, the case studies emphasizes on the application rather than simply textbook-based study. In a study by Ward and Kennedy in 1993, they stated that studying in a different country presents international students not only with cultural challenges, but also different academic demands. The ability of international students to successfully adjust to these demands includes their proficiency in English, their ability to cope with different approaches to teaching, moving from teacher-dependent to autonomous learner status, and dealing with psychosocial culture pressures. The major barrier that Chinese students often facing here is their English language barrier. So they are aware of the need to improve their English. Although they scored high on TOEFL, that doesn't mean that they are well prepared for themselves to adjust the new environment for their studies. That's the reason can be traced back to the way how English taught in China. In China, the emphasis is heavily on the written English instead of speaking. So that kind of leads to the problem that students are lack of proficiency in speaking English. And also, there's some study states that some Chinese students spend more time with their English dictionary in the library than they did to study the course content. So that's one of the biggest challenge for them is a lack of the English proficiency. And another challenge for them is to adjust the different teaching approaches. So in China, more teacher using the teacher-centered or directed approach, while here it's more student-centered. And also another reason is heavily based on China's traditional Confucius values, such as harmony, and faith, that influence learning, leading to students who prefer not to speak out in open response to questions. Also, challenging teacher in the classroom is considered inappropriate and likely to lead to loss of faith. So some study found that spontaneous oral activities were rare in Chinese classroom, and that often leads to Chinese students, appear passive. And another challenge is for the Chinese students is how to become a learner autonomy. So Chinese students learn to respect their teacher as authority figure. So they think asking questions might be considered interruption or a challenge to their teacher, and that will result in a loss of faith of their teacher. While here, in our classrooms, here students are encouraged to be independent, critical thinkers, and to value working collaboratively. The last but not the least, psychosocial culture issues that students facing here. The first one could be they have lots of culture shock when they first got here. Usually, oftentimes they find the Chinese students who came here, especially when they're probably in their first or second year, they have little knowledge of American society, culture, or education before beginning their study. So upon arrival, they all experienced various degree of reality shock. For example, their passivity, so the lack of participation in the classroom, often reflects their desire to avoid failure and not to lose faith. Studying in a different country, a new country, with different culture norm and language barrier, often leads international students to experience loneliness. But study find out if the students who have good communication or good connection with the host nations often reports decreased feelings of loneliness. So here's my discussion part. So having come to study in U.S., I think it was primarily the students' responsibility to adjust to the new learning environment. But for successful adjustment to occur, there also needs to be change in the curriculum content and delivery systems. A number of ways that might assist Chinese students to make the adjustment. First, employ senior Chinese students fluent in both Mandarin and English who had successfully completed the course to act as their mentors. So having experiences, they would be well placed to provide practical support to their fellow Chinese. Secondly, provide lecturers who work with Chinese students with specific support. For example, Mandarin-speaking tutors or support staff. Also, exploring the experience of American students who interact with Chinese students. So, for example, with a significant part of the assessment being group-based, what are the experiences of American students working with first-year Chinese students? In addition, build a community between the academic staff, including tutors who are involved in teaching Chinese students, and create communication with Chinese students. Yeah, that's my part.
Thank you.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. First, I would want to say that it's really a great pleasure for me to speak here in front of you. I sincerely hope that what I'm talking about can of great help of you. Well, as an international student, I came from China. This is my first semester here. Of course, I met a lot of obstacles when I first came to America. The first obstacle might be the language. Since I was new here and I have been a totally different environment, so I suffer from a lot about how to communicate with others. Since what I have learned in the English in China is totally different about the daily conversations. But now maybe I can adapt to it and understand my teachers. And thank for the help of Mary Ann, like the teachers, Ms. Yu. They are very friendly to Chinese students and international students. And I'm very happy to see that a lot of my Chinese friends, they are making progress in their adaptation to American life and also in their study. I think this progress results from 3 reasons. I will list it as follows. The first one is the American teachers are really nice because they will ask the international students if they can master all the knowledge in their class or if they have some questions. I have a teacher named George in managerial accounting. I think he is nice enough to make me understand the knowledge in his class. And I think some teachers encourage our international students to participate in the class because, like Ms. Yu have just mentioned, sometimes we are shy and afraid of behave terribly when we are in the class. Yeah, so there's a lot of teachers who encourage students to participate more in the class. This is very good for us to master the knowledge there. The third reason is that, of course, we international students are diligent. As every teacher can say it, most of students half of the students learning in the library consists of international students, especially Chinese friends. I met a lot of Chinese friends in the library because we discuss the courses we are learning every day. However, some obstacles still present in my study of English, such as there's a lot of teachers who have strong accent. Sometimes I cannot understand them. And a lot of teachers who speak really fast, and I cannot understand them either. Especially there is some Indian teachers who teaches history or literature like that. It is very hard for me to make clear distinction about some words. And I also suffer from the terminology, since I can deal with some daily conversations with how to order my meals, how to take the shuttle, but some terminology can still make me suffer a lot in my study. So my suggestion about this is to have some teachers make some slides or some summary about the content we are going to learn in advance to make the students familiar with what kind of terminology that we are going to meet to memorize these kind of words. And I think the study style here is totally different with China's. And especially, for example, the citations and the reference. First, I cannot make a clear distinction between what is citation and what is reference. After half of the semester, I think I have already know how to make the difference between it. But a lot of papers have been submitted and scores have given to me, so it makes me discouraged too. All right, another thing I met in the class is that sometimes the teacher give us a lot of examples, especially native examples like American companies or American geography like that. But I'm not very familiar with that. So when the teachers give some examples, I was confused about what she's talking about. And also a lot of teachers talking about the comparison between China and America. Maybe we are very sensitive towards the social system in China, and it is totally different from Americans. Because maybe I'm sensitive, so I feel embarrassed when the teacher mentioned the difference, like social system or values or attitudes towards something. I feel embarrassed. Sometimes a lot of my teachers, they have everything in the syllabus or on the blackboard. They can make me understand they can make clearly what is the homework like that. But maybe some old teachers are not very familiar with the facilities that modern technology has ever given us. So sometimes I missed. This is my guess. Sometimes I'm not very clear about what the homework is, and I remembered in the literature class I missed 4 questions in my homework. That made me got a B- in my homework. So I still feel discouraged about it. I think my suggestion to this kind of problem is the extra credit for international students, since we do not have the same ability as native American students to understand every knowledge or make correct grammar, make no grammar mistakes in my paper. So I would like to have the extra credit as an international student to higher my grade to get an A in every course that I have ever taken. So I sincerely hope that. Okay, this is what I want to say.
I'm Jack Haverty from the accounting department here at St. Joe's. I was wondering why I was on this committee. I can count to 5 in Chinese and order beer. That's about it as far as my Chinese skills go. I did teach in the summer at Beijing International MBA program. It was run by a consortium of the Jesuit universities, and that was a life changer for me. That was back in 1999, and after my once-in-a-lifetime trip there, I've been back about 10 times and have thoroughly enjoyed the heck out of it. One thing, we walked across the street to the Chinese part of the university, and I walked into a class. And the class, it must have been accounting, it wasn't accounting, it was finance or economics, something like that. And the lecturer was sitting there reading out of a book, and the class was huge class, and the students were all diligently writing the notes down. It was like something I had never seen. And I walked in the back of the class sort of uninvited. I thought I was going to be pulled out of here, and the instructor didn't even raise his head. Trust me, I stood out in that class. They could see I was there. So it's a little different in the educational system. Now, this place in Beijing, as a teacher, I've been at this 35 years, and you remember certain classes. Man, this one I remember vividly. And I remember the first day walking in there. Students came and they gave me a giant panda bear to welcome me and some flowers, and they suggested I bring the panda to the class. Now, I'm riding a bicycle, I got my computer, I got my books, I got the panda on the bicycle, and I'm riding about a mile to the classroom, and I hadn't been on a bicycle in a long time. So I was riding to the class. Now, meanwhile, that day, as I was walking into the class, somebody stopped me and said, "Oh, by the way, there's something going on in the world that you got to know about." the U.S. inadvertently bombed the Chinese embassy the night before at Belgrade, and this is way back. You probably remember that incident. They bombed the Chinese embassy in Belgrade. 9 Chinese citizens were killed. 3 of them were from alumni of Beida, the Beijing University where I was teaching. So I said, you might see some issues. So I'm riding my Panda Bear across the bicycle into the class. I have my suit on. It's hotter than anything. I'm a little bit worried about this. There's a demonstration going on right across from our classroom. They were really ripping mad. They were really going. They were kind of irritated at us at this thing. We claimed it was an inadvertent bombing, but they sort of thought other things of it. So they were kind of mad. So I was, uh-oh, Harvard, you're in the wrong place at the wrong time. So I walked into the classroom. I was a little tense. Students were a little tense, and everything you said was true about the students. They have a relationship with their teachers. They don't question you. You're the authority. I had people come up and erase the board after I was finished the class. I wasn't used to the kind treatment I was receiving. It was unbelievable. So I was very tense, and the first thing I did, they handed me the roll classroom. So I said, well, I better get to know the people and introduce people. So I tried to pronounce their names as best I could. That was trouble. The students were trying their best not to make me look foolish, but I could see they were really struggling to do this thing because they were hysterical at the way I was pronouncing some of their names. And then I was about to give up, and I got to one student. His name was Richard, and his last name was H.E. So I said, I can do this. So I pronounced him Richard He. And apparently that was extremely wrong, and that brought the house down with the language. But the good thing about that was it broke the ice, and those students treated me kinder than I had ever been treated in a class before. They watched me, and I think they gave me the Panda Bear to protect me from the demonstrators. Because what demonstrators are going to attack somebody, carrying a Panda Bear? They're just not. And the students were ready. If things got tense, they had a place they were going to hide us someplace. The kindness has changed my lifetime. So one thing as teachers that we can do to the students, it's not a hard thing. The extra credit thing is tough because we have this fairness thing. We got to be fair to everybody in there, and that's tough. And our heart goes out, but we got to be fair to the other students in there. And that's a tough battle to have. But the one thing you can do is a simple single act of kindness sometimes to the people. It's amazing when you are a stranger in a strange land, and somebody does you a little act of kindness. It's a little bit out of the ordinary, not unfair to everybody else in the class, just a small act of kindness. I remember that for the rest of their life. I know I do in that scenario. Those students were so kind to me. It was just an incredible and sort of an emotional experience. So that's one thing I gained from this. Do this simple act of kindness. That will help the students and pay some attention. That's one bit of advice I have. Second bit of advice is be a stranger in a strange land. Go out of your comfort zone if you go overseas. At this trip to Beijing, this was an immersion experience. I was there for about 3 months in the summer, no family, nothing, didn't speak the language. It was a deep immersion experience. And you get a little empathy for what the students are feeling. They're sometimes shot right out of a gun. They get off the airplane, bang, they're here in class the next day. And that is really tough in any kind of scenario, besides the cultural differences, which are extremely real. So be a stranger in a strange land. Get some empathy. Simple act of kindness. Have fun with the mistakes you do make. Chinese culture it's one thing I've learned as a person from the United States. I will never completely understand Chinese culture. It is so deep and complex and rich that we just can't understand it. And we're going to make mistakes. And they give us a little break as a foreigner. They let us make mistakes. They know we're going to make mistakes. Have fun with the mistakes they made. That mistake I made calling the roll and not being able to pronounce their names right, that bought me with the class. They bonded. They know this guy's a human. He's a little, he's not an automaton teacher. He's a human being. He makes mistakes. He gets a laugh, and that bonded with the class, and that kind of made it. So that's my third piece of advice. Fourth piece of advice, create an opportunity to give face. In Chinese culture, what little I do know about it, the more I go over there, I find the less I know. It's incredible. But they are very sensitive to the way they appear to the outside, probably more sensitive than U.S. folks. So we worry a lot about situations where you lose face yourself or you cause somebody else to lose face. But the opposite of that is giving face to somebody. Give these folks an opportunity that they can succeed and they can feel good, be it in a group situation or be it in a classroom situation. That's a good thing to do. Now, my fifth point was watch out for stereotypes. Chinese students, they're not all the same. Now, it's a little bit different here. We just get a few of them in our classes, so we don't really have to worry about that. But when you get a class of 40 or 50 of them, oh, they're just like our students. Same diversity, same mix, same attitude, same thing. So watch out for stereotypes. Now, when I taught there, about 5% of the students went to university. They take an examination to get into the university. The examination is brutal. They work all through high school to get through this examination. It is brutal. They get in there, so you're dealing with an elite. You're dealing with some very, very bright people that have gotten through a really tough system and gotten that far. So they do have the intellect. Now, sometimes we have too much of that stereotype, and there are goof-offs, and there are extroverts, and there are introverts, and they're more like us than we think. So, to me, there's more similarities than differences, but there are some differences. And along with the stereotype thing, and I haven't come across this, but people in Macau and China that I've spoken to, they say, watch out for the new generation of people coming up. Watch out for the little emperors that are just getting through high school, because they've had the one-child policy, and supposedly the kids coming out are spoiled. They didn't go through the tough times that mom and dad did during the Cultural Revolution and things like that. And they've had a lot of material good things, and sometimes they claim to be spoiled. I think you've got to watch out for that stereotype both directions. I haven't seen that any here or in China yet. People tell me, watch out, it's coming, that the newer wave is going to be a little bit different from the older wave. Where the older wave are serious, intense students that have a respect for the teacher, like nothing I've ever seen here. And that's both good and bad. As a teacher, it's a little scary to get that much respect. I don't believe everything I say. You shouldn't do that. I'm a human being too. But that's what their training is. And the other side of that, they have a saying that if you're a teacher for life. And they mean that one too. If you get a relationship with them going, you're going to gain more than you give in that respect. So they do build relationships, and they are serious about, once you're a teacher for life. And that is the truth. So they're my little bits of advice. I wish I could give terrific answers to these things, but do my best and try to cope with it. Thank you.
Alright, so like I said before, I'm Ethan Thomas. I'm a senior here. I spent a semester in China over, I guess it's about a year and a half ago now. I still keep in contact with quite a few of my friends over there that I made. And so far everybody's gone over a lot of the points that I had been thinking about when I was told about this panel, but I'll just talk about my experiences over there. Having Chinese teachers in a classroom that was almost exclusively American, well, it was all international students, almost exclusively American. The teachers, they changed quite a decent amount from what I've heard from my friends and other people that I've met along the way. They still did a lot of lecture, but they did ask us questions and wanted to have us give input. Not nearly as much as we do here, which showed a lot to me how different their educational system is than ours. They're very much based off of lectures and wanting you to just take notes, and like they've said, you don't really challenge the teacher or anything like that. While I was over there, the teachers were just great. They were very friendly, helped us with anything we needed, but even they struggled with the language barrier a bit, as we've discussed already. We had to stop them from time to time and ask them what they were talking about. We had no idea, and we had 25, 30 students in a classroom sometimes. We'd all just be staring at the teacher like, I have no idea where you're going with this or what you're referencing, so don't worry, it goes both ways, both geography and political events and things like that. You're not the only ones, we feel it too. But based off of all of that, and just my friends who I have over in China really want to learn. A lot of them like the system over here. They're just not used to it, and what I've gathered from my new friends over here. Well, Brenda, I've met for a little bit now, but they're doing a lot better as the semester has gone on, getting more used to things and everything like that. They really want to learn and do a lot of the things that we do. And over in China, they've actually, from what I understand, they've started to move over to what we do. So maybe in 10, 15 years, we'll start seeing Chinese students being able to interact with us a little bit more easily, at least still with some cultural barriers and things like that. But hopefully it'll get a little bit easier on its own. But some of my tips would be, I think it would be great if the teachers would try to interact with the international students a little bit more. I'm not sure how much each of you does with them, but just on like the first day, either ask them all to meet you out for lunch or dinner sometime. I know you're busy, but or even just meeting a little bit before, a little bit after class, just to talk to them. Show that you're a normal person, you're on their level. It's okay. They can talk to you about things if they're having issues. Another thing would be if you find the students are having some issues, or even before that, see if they want to have somebody in the class to help them out with their homework, or that they can call to talk to if they don't understand something, whether it's in the notes or in the homework itself. I think that would be very helpful. I had a host student over there that helped me tremendously with everything culturally and in the classroom, along with a tutor who got me through my Chinese class. I know I wouldn't have been able to without her. But I mean, I've noticed that the Chinese students tend to open up more to other students, especially because they still have the saving face. They don't want to lose face, but it's less so when it's with another student than it is with a teacher. They feel more comfortable with students, and as they get to know students, they become more open and will talk to you about. My friends over there will talk to me about pretty much anything now. So I think that would be a really good way to help them. I know it wouldn't be possible in every situation, but I think especially getting students to be more interactive with them, especially in the specific classes that they're taking, would help a lot.
You all know who I am now, and as you know, I'm a freshman and coming here for about 200-something days so far, and I am one of the coming generation in China, that's so-called. We're called the 90s because we're born after 1990s, so it is true that some of them are like spoiled, but through my interaction with my generation, I think we are just as still a very smart and bright and caring generation. And the past 200-something days in St. Joseph has really been my greatest experience so far. I can't say enough how much I love this school already, and I have great experience both inside and outside classrooms. And here I'm going to talk more about inside classrooms. First, I want to explain a little bit the difference between school systems in China and America. Some of you may know that in high school in China, we have 50 students in one classroom, and we have exactly the same schedule, and we have same teacher. We spend almost every single day together, most of us for 3 years straight. And we don't change classrooms, teachers change classrooms. While here, students move every class, and you have different classmates in every class. And so that makes the social norms kind of different in China, because you spend all the time with those 50-something kids, and you are kind of obligated and mandatory to know them. And even though you don't reach out to them, they will reach out to you in some kind of activities or interaction in daily life. But here you have to reach out to people, and you have to put yourself out there, and who you are is the way you show yourself, and you have to make your friends and just be out there. And so this kind of social norms affects the classic dynamic because the class in each classes is so big, like 50 something students. The class participation could be limited. So yes, we have participation in like Chinese and English classes. Those classes need like discussions, but usually it's just a group of people talk. Like there are always going to be about 10 kids who is very into it and always raise their hands and answer questions, and I'm always one of them. And teachers do provide chances for them to answer questions, but the time we spend on discussions is really limited because teachers do have a very serious and very tight schedule. So I know many kids are not used to speak out in classes. And even I'm one of those kids who like to speak out in classes. Coming here, I still find it's kind of challenging to engage in classes as soon as I got here because sometimes I worry, what if I say something wrong? What if they can't understand me? What if there's many what ifs? So, but as time moves on, and I feel professors are very helpful, and I start to participate in classes, especially classes like English and history. Those classes need discussions. And I think here professor's attitude is very important to me because I would try to say something at first, and if the professor is very supportive and if he or she understands me perfectly, that will encourage me to participate more in the future, and I will feel the kind of rewarding and kind of like accomplishment in class, and being a part of the discussion is a really good feeling, and I feel it's just at first it could be hard to get into the door. And another aspect of the social scene course is the group project, as Yu Laoshi, Ms. Yu has talked about, as we hardly have any group project in high school in China, and where I learned about teamwork is through students' union work, where I work with other students on school's activities, but not everyone has such experiences, so many people may not necessarily know how to be a part of group and contribute to the presentations, because we don't really do much presentations, and public speaking is another aspect because we didn't have that much training, even though my Chinese teacher has been concentrating on training us about speaking and speech, and he has given us chances to like 5-minute speech before classes. Each one of you does it once or twice semesters, but the training is still limited. So as I said, I'm kind of nervous right now standing here. And I think during group project, in here we have to reach out to the other group members, and those people are not those ones we are best friends with, or not the people we see on a daily basis. So it's another process of knowing people and building another kind of relationships, and you have to make a time, you have to sit down and talk about what you're going to say, what you're going to put on PowerPoint. And I have a very positive experience during the first semester here. I was taking the food marketing seminar, and we have the final project, and my group has been really involving, and I did a PowerPoint and sent to others, and they edited it, and we come up with a fairly good presentation. So I think it's a working process for me and for other Chinese students. It takes time to get adjusted to, you have like presentation for every classes, and it's a good thing, I think. And the second part, I think, is the preparation, because we learn very different things in high school, and I feel American students are more rounded than us, especially when it comes to points like social studies and social science, because in history class, Brenda, she talked about some references we didn't know because we didn't learn at all in high school. I found it in history class because there are some like references and some part of history I didn't know because I only took history for like 1 year in high school. But my friends I met my best friends in history class. She knows like everything already, like beforehand. So I think it's good to learn more, but at the same time, because it can cause challenges. And also in English class, this semester we started learning Shakespeare. So I haven't read any Shakespeare before, and come to like learning medieval English, it is hard. I'm honest, I don't really understand reading them. It really takes much more time than Native American students, and most of them have read at least one or two Shakespeare's plays in high school, so they know how to approach text like that. But I think this semester, a good thing is we have chances to see like Shakespeare plays, and which is like helping me to understand. Also in history class, my history professor has shown us a couple of movies and documentaries, which is more easier to understand with all those motion pictures. And third point is, they have pointed out before too, is citation, because I can see I never wrote a research paper in high school, and I got a C+ in history paper, my first ever research paper, and I was freaking out at that time, and I didn't know what Chicago style is, and I didn't understand why you need a footnote and a bibliography. But later on, I understand them and start to doing them right. But there's like MLA, APA, Chicago. You have to adjust different reference citation styles, and I think sometimes citation links to plagiarism. And in China, when you write a paper, if you're using others like a sentence, you just use the quotation mark and say it's not your work, it's somebody else that said it. But here you have to give them credit. So it's a difference, and it's kind of like extra work. But I think before in summer there's online program give all the freshmen like plagiarism tutorial. It's an online program, like everybody has to take it. I think that's very, very helpful for me. I understand there's many different forms of plagiarism through that video, and there's like a quizzes, and I know not everybody took it, but I did, and I personally found it's very helpful, especially for international students who didn't know how to do this and who didn't know the definition of plagiarism here, because in our minds, plagiarism is just like you copy somebody else's answers during test. So I think if professors could give international students like extra, send them the link to the tutorial or give them some sort of programs like that, would be really helpful. Okay. After all, I really enjoy my experience in St. Joe's and love it here more than I can say.
I don't feel I have too much to add on top of what these great panel members have talked about. I just want to mention that since I'm on the faculty side, I was a student, international student coming from China, actually for quite some time before I eventually become a faculty member. I just feel like as an international students, it's good for them to really get to know the culture. It's not just about the study, the subjects. So when I came to this country about 15 years ago, I chose to live outside of, Chinese student community. I purposely found an American house to share with other international students, like from Germany, from France, and of course from local. So it's a very good opportunity for me to really learn about the culture. And of course, I listen to a lot of music before coming to the States, and I love language itself. So that helps me to get to know the culture itself and sort of shorten the distance between myself and American students. So I think from faculty perspective, it would be good to encourage your international students in the classroom to really get out there to get to know the community. And I think St. Joe's itself is a very warm community, and people are very supportive and try to encourage each other. And I remember when I was an international student, I live in that American house, and across the street is a family, American family. They always invited me to go to their Thanksgiving, to their Christmas gatherings. So that's another big part of the cultural awareness of what people do over the holidays, and they become really my host family. So I think when I came to St. Joe's, at least my colleagues around very warm to me. Jack Halvey invited me to his house for a holiday. And so a couple years ago, I tried to learn the same and tried to invite students to Thanksgiving party hosted by a friend of mine. So some of them, I think one year, Miriam provided a yellow bus to just transport all these students to the location right across from campus, so it's close by. 22 kids showed up. It was their first Thanksgiving for some of them, so it was very, very encouraging and really get to know them. So it's a good channel to really know the students, make them feel comfortable, and then they can learn the culture itself. So I really encourage faculty members, staff to open, I guess. And I know other couple faculty also do the same. I think John, you also invited students to your house. So I think it's very encouraging to see this going on around the campus. That's what Jack was talking about, simple acts of kindness. And also I would say encourage your American students to get to know international students as well. I know some of the American kids taking Chinese, they like to come to my office hours just to practice Chinese with me, knowing that I do speak Mandarin. But then I look around and say, well, there are some international students in the class yourself, so I try to pair them up and ask them to practice, so they can help each other. So I teach accounting, so maybe those American students can help the Chinese students with accounting knowledge, and then they can teach the other side of the language. So it's good for I guess international students to get to know American kids. And some of them will say, well, they will invite me to party, but once I refuse to go the first time, they don't invite me anymore. So I think it's to continue to give encouragement to your even American students to be open up to international students and make them part of the community. I think that's very important to welcome them. And in terms of some of the graduate class that I had international students in there, and they are now quite familiar with American companies as cultural part of it. So I think maybe as instructor, as faculty, you can give them some additional reading, basic ones, to get them familiar with the background. So that's a challenge, I guess, I also face, in how to get those students up to speed and to know the things that we talk about in the regular classroom setting. And it's difficult to say to give extra credits, because as faculty members we have to hold the same standard across the board. So it will be a challenge. But I think to just, as many of the people said before, to be kind and encouraging, to help students recognize the difficulties that they face and try to help them along the way. That means a lot to them. So I think we're running short, so I'll give John time. Thank you.
So Nancy, shall I go ahead? Well, let me try and be concise here. There are a couple of things I really wanted to throw out, and I guess I'll leave them more as bullet points. Let me start with the broad bullet points, but afterwards I'd like to address specifically 3 issues that have been raised. Speaking in class, team behavior, behavior in teams, and also academic honesty, just very briefly. But before that, the overview. 2 things. It's very important that we understand, I think, Hall's notion of high context and low context cultures, right? The U.S. is relatively low context. There are others even further low, Germany, Dutch, etc., where what you see is, what you say and what you see is sort of what you mean. In China, it's very high context. They are and I will use the word they, loosely here, in the interest of time. They are continuously trying to read the environment because it's extremely high context over there. And what that means is that in their minds, and over there this is true, everything means something. And it's very true. That's why Jack used the words complex, because you have to be reading and you have to be learning. When they arrive here, first of all, they don't know that everything doesn't mean the same at the same level, and secondly, they're trying to figure it out. It's very, very difficult. The second broad thing here regarding the overarching theme is the notion of save face and lose face and give face. It's something that we don't understand, truly. It's very hard for us to understand. It's a mixture. It has nothing to do with guilt. It goes from shame to pride, if you will. It has to do a little bit with the group. So what Jack suggested about giving face is actually an awesome idea that I'd never thought of, which is offer the opportunity for them to be proud, kind of thing. Because losing face means that you're sort of at some level diminished. And it's very complex because of the complexity, right? You don't know exactly when it happens. It often happens without us even meaning that. Let me mention quickly a couple of things that were mentioned at the individual level I think are very important. Learning about their world. Jack used the terms don't stereotype. Learning about their world, the vast differences, that was also mentioned. China, I mean, people think the U.S. is one monolithic thing, right? I ask you, is somebody from North Dakota the same thing, the same as somebody from San Diego? Is somebody from the Rockies the same thing as somebody from the Bayou, right? China, it's that in spades. You have hundreds of languages. They call them dialects, but they don't understand each other. Obviously, there is Mandarin. It's a national language, and it's spoken world, China-wide. But their native language, their indigenous languages in their household are often very, very different. So very different cultures. The diversity is huge. So let me just breeze through here. So creating an opportunity to give face, that was mentioned. Small acts of kindness was also huge. I do disagree with the extra credit, but for a different reason. The fairness is there as well. But I think this is an opportunity for them to come here and flourish. And I got to tell you, they flourish. Look, I've had, I mentioned briefly when I introduced myself, I teach international management. So international management, every fall, there are like about 5 exchange students that are here, for only the semester. 5, is the average number, actually. Every single year in the last 3 years, I've had somebody come up at the end of the first class and say, I don't understand anything. Guess what? Those people that didn't understand anything were the ones that were the best students. Unbelievable. In fact, on the issue of academic honesty, and I got to go very quickly here. Okay, specific suggestions. One, following what Jean was mentioning, and now more institutional side, okay, not at the individual level. Have Chinese students, foreign students live with with Americans. Break them up. You know what I mean? I had that happen. Last year, in 2010 actually, fall of 2010, right? There was one Chinese student who said, I want to live with Americans. He did it on his own. And it was amazing. The guy was speaking English, significantly better, at the end. Obviously there's a price to be paid. He wasn't with, the other Chinese students. But if that could be encouraged institutionally, I think, that's a great idea. To Jean's point about having sought out, living in an American household. Also, avoid teachers with accents, if that's at all possible. I fully understand what was said. I mean, I came from this country. I'm from Brazil, right? I come from this country. I mean, the first thing, if you're from northern China, this is not as dramatic. But if you're from southern China, winters are cold. I mean, you're lonely, you're away from home, it is depressing, right? So when you can't understand the teacher who's speaking English, but with a very strong accent, that is something that could easily be done, I think, institutionally. Teachers also, instructors, can use examples that are broad. Think about examples beforehand, right? So if there are a couple of Chinese students in the class, or foreign students, wherever, use examples that are simple and broad, not, in Allentown or New Orleans or, or sort of, where I came from, in Colorado Springs or whatever. Let me also say that, okay, the 3 points that I want, sorry, I'm trying to go quickly and say right now. Speaking in class. Okay. Speaking in class is very hard for them, again. But it can be done. In fact, my big victory was when Xingfu Song, or Song Xingfu in Chinese, literally in class, raised his hand, that this was late in the year, in November, and said that something that I had said was different where he came from. So I said, yeah, now he's really talking. Not only that, but he's giving his opinion. But you have to stimulate them. You have to sort of coax it out of them. I have an ongoing debate in my department. I don't cold call people, right? I don't cold call. If you don't want to talk, you don't have to talk. But participation is always something. It's either it's between 10 and 20% of the class. So I think you as an individual will speak. You know it's important, so I don't need to cold call you. But I also think that it's our role to coax the curiosity out of them. So anyway, that's speaking in class, treated on a one-on-one basis. Team behavior. Have small teams of 3. If you have teams of 4, it's easier for the Chinese student to feel isolated. If you have teams of 3, it works a lot better. Everybody is important. And last one, on academic honesty, and I really am running out of time. I'll tell you, Jiangxi Li, or Li Jiangxi, she was an awesome student. Awesome student. She was the only student I've ever had that had 100 in the midterm and 100 in the final. Only one ever to have 200s in a course of mine. However, so last thing, she was, well, that's quite a luck there. Last sentence then. She was very worried because in another course, a teacher had said, you plagiarized, right? And she was freaking out. She didn't even know what she had done. So this understanding what plagiarism is and the suggestion of, the tutorial is awesome. Sorry about that.
Oh, yeah. I hope you were able to take something for this, and we expect to continue the dialogue next semester. Thank you.